The 4-Hour Workweek by Timothy Ferriss. Picture yourself standing on polished hardwood floors, stage lights blazing down on you. The air's thick with smoke and raw anticipation. You're in Buenos Aires, Argentina, at the semifinals of the Tango World Championship. Your dance partner, Alicia, stands beside you, her nervous energy practically vibrating through the air. Beyond the lights, 50,000 people create a distant roar that sounds almost like the ocean. For the past 5 months, your entire existence has been 6-hour daily practices, diving so deep into tango that it's become part of your DNA. This is it. Your moment. The announcer's voice cuts through the noise. Pareja número 152, Timothy Ferriss, y Alicia Monti, Ciudad de Buenos Aires. The crowd absolutely loses it. As you step into that spotlight, one question flashes through your mind like lightning. What on earth would I be doing right now if I hadn't quit my job and left the U.S. over a year ago? That single question, that's the beating heart of what we're diving into today. The 4-Hour Workweek by Timothy Ferriss. This isn't just another self-help book collecting dust on someone's nightstand. This is a full-blown global phenomenon, translated into more than 35 languages. For over a decade, it's been like a dangerous little red pill that millions of people have swallowed, only to wake up and realize the life they thought was permanent was actually totally escapable. The guy on that tango stage used to be trapped. He was drowning in his own success, an overworked entrepreneur chained to his email, grinding out 14-hour days, 7 days a week. He was making more money than he'd ever imagined, and yet, he'd never been more miserable. So how did he go from that self-created prison to competing on a world championship stage in Buenos Aires? How did he build a life packed with adventure, freedom, and actual purpose, while working less than ever? That's exactly what we're unpacking today. We're pulling back the curtain on what Ferriss calls the new rich. This underground community of people who've completely rejected the tired old work now, live later plan. We're going to learn how to escape the 9-to-5 grind, live anywhere you want, and design a life that isn't about waiting for retirement, but about living your richest life right this very second. Our story doesn't start with some grand master plan for world domination. It starts with quiet desperation, the kind so many of us know all too well. Timothy Ferriss had built a successful sports supplement company from scratch. By every traditional measure, he was killing it. He was pulling in over $40,000 a month. But that success? It came with a price tag that would make your soul hurt. He was working from before the sun came up until long after it went down, 7 days a week, completely chained to a business that was basically eating him alive. In his own words, he was grossly overworked and severely underpaid in the currencies that actually matter, time and freedom. He'd built himself a cage. Sure, it was a pretty nice cage, but it was still a cage. He felt trapped, stupid, and completely exhausted. His life had turned into a runaway freight train, and he was just shoveling coal into the furnace because he couldn't think of what else to do. During this dark period, what he calls his, quote, chronology of a pathology, something clicked. He had a realization that would flip everything upside down. He asked himself a deceptively simple question. What do people actually want when they say they want to be a millionaire? Is it really the number sitting in a bank account, or is it the experience they think only millions can buy? The exotic travel, freedom from having a boss breathing down your neck, waking up and doing whatever lights you up inside. The fantasy isn't actually about the $1 million. The fantasy is about the lifestyle of complete freedom that money supposedly unlocks. And that led to the revolutionary question driving this entire book: how can you get the millionaire lifestyle of complete freedom without first having the $1 million? This question gave birth to a whole new philosophy Ferriss calls lifestyle design. It introduced him to a hidden tribe of people he calls the new rich. These aren't trust fund babies or workaholic billionaires. The new rich are people who've abandoned the work your whole life, maybe enjoy yourself later plan, and created luxury lifestyles right now, using two currencies worth way more than money: time and mobility. To join this tribe, Ferriss developed a 4-step process, basically a recipe for reinventing your entire life. He turned it into an acronym: DEAL. D is for definition, E is for elimination, A is for automation, and L is for liberation. This framework is our roadmap. It's the path from the cubicle to the wide open world. Let's start with D for definition. This is where we tear up the old rulebook and write a completely new one. The first rule we need to rewrite is how we even define wealth. Society's taught us to measure wealth in absolute income, how much money you make per year. Someone making $100,000 is supposedly twice as rich as someone making $50,000. But the new rich know this is complete nonsense. They measure wealth in relative income. It's not just about how much you make, it's about how much time it costs you to make it. Imagine two people. Jane works 80 hours a week for $100,000 a year. That breaks down to about $25 an hour. John, on the other hand, works only 10 hours a week and makes $50,000 a year. That's $100 an hour. In the currency the new rich actually care about, John is 4 times wealthier than Jane. He has more freedom, more time, more actual life. The second rule we need to blow up is retirement. The old plan says work yourself to the bone for 40 years, sacrifice your most energetic, healthy decades, then hopefully enjoy a few golden years at the end. Ferriss calls this worst-case scenario insurance. It's basically gambling that you'll even make it to retirement in good health, and that you won't be bored out of your skull after 1 week of doing nothing. The new rich approach is way smarter. Instead of one massive retirement at the end, they scatter a series of mini-retirements throughout their lives. Think of it like taking 1 to 6 month adventures every few years, moving to Italy to learn real cooking, living in Argentina to master tango, volunteering in Thailand. These aren't just vacations. They're periods of recharging, learning, and rediscovering who you actually are. But before we can even think about mini-retirements, we've got to face the biggest monster of all: fear. Fear is what keeps us frozen in place. It's that quiet voice whispering, "What if I fail? What if I can't pay my bills? What if this ruins my resume?" Ferriss introduces this powerful antidote to paralysis he calls fear setting. It's the practice of defining your nightmare. Instead of letting vague anxieties run your life, you write down in painful detail the absolute worst things that could happen if you take the leap you're considering. What would the permanent impact be on a scale of 1 to 10? How likely is it to actually happen? And what simple steps could you take to get back on track if it did? When Ferriss did this before his first trip, he realized his worst-case scenario, his business tanking, his money disappearing, would only have a temporary impact of maybe 3 or 4 out of 10. And it was super unlikely. Meanwhile, the best-case scenario, a life of freedom and adventure, would have a permanent positive impact of 9 or 10. He was risking a temporary 3 for a permanent 10. Suddenly, the choice was obvious. This leads to one of the book's most powerful lessons. What we fear doing most is usually what we most need to do. Once we've redefined our reality, we move to step 2, E, for elimination. This is where we declare war on the outdated concept of time management and learn to actually create more time. The goal isn't to cram more stuff in, it's to do less. Ferriss introduces two powerful principles that become our main weapons. First is the 80-20th principle, also called Pareto's Law, named after Italian economist Vilfredo Pareto. Pareto discovered this simple but universal truth. 80% of outputs come from 20% of inputs. 80% of a company's profits come from 20% of its customers. 80% of your results come from 20% of your efforts. And here's the kicker. 80% of your problems and unhappiness also come from 20% of your sources. When Ferriss applied this to his own business, it blew his mind. Out of more than 120 customers, just 5 of them were bringing in 95% of his revenue. The other 95% were eating up nearly all his time and causing all his headaches. So he made a radical move. He fired them. He stopped chasing them, stopped calling them, and focused only on his top producers. The result? His monthly income doubled, and his work hours dropped from over 80 per week to just 15. The lesson is brutal but freeing. Focus on being productive instead of being busy. Most of what we do makes zero difference. Being busy is often just a form of laziness, lazy thinking, and scattered action. The second weapon is Parkinson's Law, which says that a task will balloon in perceived importance and complexity based on how much time you give it. If you've got 24 hours to finish a project, the time pressure forces you to focus on only what matters. If you've got a week, you'll spend 6 days turning a molehill into a mountain. The secret is combining these two laws. Use the 80-20th principle to identify the few critical tasks that actually matter. Then use Parkinson's Law by giving yourself super short, clear deadlines to knock them out. To make this possible, Ferriss insists we go on a low-information diet. Just like we consume empty calories, we consume empty information, endless news cycles, social media feeds, emails that are negative, irrelevant, and completely outside our control. He challenges us to stop watching the news, stop mindlessly surfing the web, and ask ourselves one simple question before consuming anything. Will I definitely use this for something immediate and important? If the answer is no, ignore it. This ruthless elimination extends to the single biggest interruption in modern life: email. The average person checks email dozens of times a day, letting their inbox dictate their priorities. Ferriss's solution? Check email only twice per day, at set times like noon and 4 in the afternoon. Set up an autoresponder that trains people to respect your time, letting them know when you'll be checking messages and giving a phone number for true emergencies. You'll quickly discover that almost nothing is actually an emergency. This is the art of elimination, doing less meaningless work so you can focus on things with greater personal importance. Once we've created time, we move to step 3, A, for automation. This is where we build a system to generate income without constant involvement. It's about creating what Ferriss calls a muse, a low-maintenance business that funds your ideal lifestyle. The key to automation is removing yourself as the bottleneck. You've got to build a business that can run and grow without you. This starts with one of the most transformative ideas in the book: outsourcing your life. The concept comes alive through the hilarious story of A.J. Jacobs, an editor for Esquire magazine, who decided to outsource not just his work but his entire personal life to a team in Bangalore, India. His assistants did his research, answered his emails, paid his bills, and even argued with his wife for him. At one point, He outsourced his worrying, paying an assistant to worry about a business deal so he could relax. And it actually worked. While that sounds extreme, the point is profound. You've got to learn to delegate and become the commander instead of the commanded. Getting a virtual assistant, even for just a few hours a week, is like training wheels for the most critical skill of the new rich, remote management. You learn to give clear, precise instructions and trust other people to execute them. But what do you automate? You create a muse. And the perfect muse, according to Ferriss, is often an information product. Think of a how-to guide, a DVD series, an online course. Why? Because information products are cheap to create, fast to manufacture, and hard for competitors to copy. The profit margins can be absolutely insane, often 10 to 50 times the production cost. The process for creating your muse is systematic and designed to minimize risk. First, don't start with a product idea. Start by finding a niche market you already belong to or understand. Are you a rock climber, a dog lover, a student? Find a group with its own magazines and online communities, a group you can reach affordably. Second, once you've got your market, brainstorm a product for them. The key here is not investing a single dollar in manufacturing. Instead, you move to the third and most critical step: micro-test your product. You create a simple one-page website advertising your product as if it already exists. You can use testimonials from friends or clients. Then you run a short, cheap Google AdWords campaign, maybe $50 a day for 5 days, to drive traffic to that page. The website should have a Buy Now button. When customers click it, they get taken to a page saying, "Unfortunately, this product is on back order, but we'll notify you when it's available." This simple test tells you the only thing that matters, not if people say they'd buy, but if they actually try to buy. You're testing commercial viability before spending a dime on inventory. If the test fails, you've lost a few $100 in a few days. If it succeeds, you've got a proven winner. Only then do you invest in creating the product. The final stage of automation is building the architecture. Your goal is designing a business that runs itself, where you're not in the flow of information. You do this by using third-party companies for every step of the process. You find a contract manufacturer to produce your product. You hire a fulfillment center to store inventory, pack and ship orders, and handle returns. You use a call center to answer customer calls. You use a credit card processor to handle payments. Each company communicates with each other, not with you. Your role is simply checking reports and watching cash deposits in your bank account. You become the ghost in the machine. This brings us to the final step, L, for liberation. This is the mobile manifesto, the art of breaking the chains, confining you to a single location. Even if you're an employee, liberation is possible. Ferriss lays out a step-by-step process for negotiating remote work. It starts with proving your value. By applying elimination principles, you should be able to dramatically increase your productivity. You become so valuable that it's more painful for the company to lose you than to grant your request. The process involves small, reversible steps. You might start by calling in sick for a day or two, making sure those are your most productive days ever, leaving a clear email trail of your achievements. Then you propose a one-day-a-week remote trial, framing it not as a personal perk, but as a business benefit that increases output. You make that one day incredibly productive, then expand to 2 days, then 3, until you've achieved full mobility. The key is asking for forgiveness, not permission, and presenting every step as a revocable test. Once you've achieved this freedom of time and location, the world cracks wide open. This is when you embark on your mini retirements. And here's the final beautiful secret. Living this lifestyle is often cheaper than staying home. Ferriss shares his own experiences living in a penthouse apartment in Buenos Aires, taking private tango and Spanish lessons daily, eating at five-star restaurants twice a day, all for less than $1,500 a month. He lived in a huge apartment in a trendy part of Berlin, taking language classes and martial arts for less than $1,200 a month. When your income's in dollars, but your expenses are in pesos or rupees, your money automatically becomes worth 3 to 10 times as much. But after the initial rush of travel and adventure fades, a new challenge shows up. It's a feeling that hits many of the new rich, an existential void. With no deadlines and no boss, the big questions creep in. What am I doing with my life? What's the point of it all? This, Ferriss argues, is the final hurdle. The answer isn't finding some single cosmic meaning of life. The answer is filling the void with two fundamental pursuits: continual learning and service. Use your freedom to master a new skill, learn a new language, push your physical and mental limits, and find a way to serve, to do something that improves life for someone other than yourself. This doesn't have to mean saving the world. It could be mentoring a kid, composing music that brings joy to others, or simply helping people solve a problem. This is the ultimate endgame of the 4-hour workweek. It's not about being idle. It's about subtracting meaningless work to make room for a life that's truly yours, a life of adventure, contribution, and continuous growth. When you step back and really look at the 4-hour workweek, you realize it's way more than a business book. At its core, it's a philosophical rebellion against the unexamined life. It's a permission slip to question the rules society handed us. Rules saying you must trade your life for a living, that your dreams must wait until you're old and gray, and that being busy is some kind of badge of honor. What's truly remarkable is how ahead of its time this book was. When it first came out, these ideas seemed radical, almost like science fiction to some people. But today, in a world of digital nomads, remote work, and the gig economy, Ferriss's vision seems less like fantasy and more like a field guide to modern reality. He didn't just predict the future, he provided the blueprint for it. The most powerful lesson for me is the redefinition of wealth. The idea that our most valuable resources aren't dollars in the bank, but hours in the day, and the freedom to choose where we spend them. It forces us to ask a deeply uncomfortable question: are we rich in the things that truly matter? This isn't a book about being lazy. Actually, applying these principles requires immense discipline, focus, and courage. It's about being effective, not just efficient. It's about having the clarity to tell the difference between urgent and important, and the guts to let small, bad things happen so big, good things have a chance to emerge. So how can you start applying these ideas today, even in a small way? First, do a personal 80/20ths analysis. For the next week, pay close attention to your daily activities. At the end of the week, ask yourself, what 20% of my actions created 80% of my happiness and sense of accomplishment? And just as importantly, what 20% of my activities, or even people, caused 80% of my stress and frustration? The answers will be eye-opening. Second, try a 1-week low-information diet. For 7 days, no news websites, no mindless social media scrolling, no television news. See what happens to your focus, your mood, and your ability to be present. You might discover the world keeps spinning without your constant supervision. And third, define one dreamline. Pick one thing you've always wanted to do. Learn a language, travel somewhere, master a skill. Go online and calculate the actual monthly cost to make it happen. You might be shocked to discover how achievable your impossible dreams really are. That was our look at the 4-Hour Workweek by Timothy Ferriss. We've explored the highlights today, but here's the truth. A summary can only take you so far. The real magic happens when you hold the book in your hands and let the ideas sink in. It's in those quiet moments, when a particular story or simple phrase hits you in a way you didn't expect. This summary is designed to help you decide if this book is worth your time and attention. If anything we've talked about today has sparked something in you, if it's made you question the path you're on, then I encourage you to grab a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning new strategies. It's an experience that can genuinely change how you see your work, your time, and your life. Also, if you found this journey valuable, please take a moment to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. It lets us know we're on the right track and makes sure you won't miss our next exploration into another life-changing book. Let's keep learning and growing together.